is April 5th at about 4:20 a.m. and I am in labor. Yay! Been having contractions now for about an hour, and I had an appointment yesterday and they're already 4 minutes apart. I'm already 4 centimeters dilated, so we are going to go ahead and get ready for the hospital just because I don't want to have this baby here at the house, and I don't want to have this baby in the car. So with them being 4 minutes and really intense already, yeah, we're getting ready to head to the hospital. Jonathan's putting the bags in the car. I'm waiting on my sisters to get here. I've already called my mom. So, yep. Maybe we will have a baby later today. Maybe. But yeah, I'm just kind of chilling right now. Just had a contraction, waiting on the next one to come. You guys, right now I'm the only one that can record because Jonathan's busy. You'll see me put this camera down right now because I'm about to have another one. Oh. Oh, close to it. Not as in the. I feel like this is right at the point before I got the epidural returning.
You gotta move fast.
Where's Erica
Huh?
Where's Erica right?
Don't know.
Did you tell them we're going to come here?
Yeah, I told him to come here.
Okay.
Let's just go. We gotta figure out the hospital thing because.
Hey y'all, welcome back to All in the Jeans. So today I'm going to share with you guys my labor and delivery story. 2 weeks ago on April 5th, I gave birth to our second child, our second girl, Justice Jean, and she came in this world quick with the bang, and she weighed 6 pounds 10 ounces, and she was about 19 inches long. So yeah, this is our story. So yeah, about 3:40 a.m. on April 5th, I was having a dream talking to Jonathan, saying that, hey, why don't we just do a at-home birth? I was saying, you know, I already kind of contacted some midwives, and Jonathan was like, yeah, let's just have the baby at the house. So we were like, let's just go ahead and start looking at some pools. And then I woke up because I was like, oh, I really have to go to the bathroom. So I got out the bed really quick. I went to the bathroom and I peed like so much. Like, you would have thought I drank like a gallon of water with how much pee came out. And then after I used the bathroom, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm cramping a little bit. But I've had that happen before. My bladder got too full and then I kind of just felt uncomfortable for a while. So I was like, maybe I just need to lay down and hopefully they'll go away. I'll drink a little water. So I tried to lay down for about 5 minutes, but the the cramping, it just continued. And I was like, are these contractions, or these just intense Braxton Hicks? I can't really tell. So I got up and I kind of started walking around the room, doing some swaying, seeing if they would go away, but I was continuing to have them, but they were really irregular. So they were like 2 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart, some were 5 minutes. It was just kind of like all over the place. So I'm like, I don't really know what this is. So then I had a contraction that was really painful, and I was like, I think I may be going into labor. So I woke up Jonathan and I was like, hey babe, I think I'm going into labor. And he was like, I bet, pretty much. And that's exactly how it happened with Journey. I got up, I used the bathroom, I started cramping. I waited a little while to see if I was actually going into labor, and I woke up Jonathan, and then basically we just went from there. So he was like, let's just make sure that you're actually going into labor, because we don't want to make a trip to the hospital and then they have to send us home. Now at this point, I'm already 4 centimeters dilated. I just had an appointment the day before, and yeah, so I was already 4 centimeters, and my OB was telling me that, hey, because you're already 4 centimeters, when your contractions get 8 to 9 minutes apart, you need to go ahead and go to the hospital, because you've already had one baby and you're going to dilate really, really quick once you go into active labor. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll make sure to look out for the 8-minute to 9-minute mark. So once I woke up Jonathan, he was like, let's go ahead and time the contractions. So we were timing the contractions, and they were already at 4 minutes apart. We waited for 4 good contractions to come through, just to make sure they were actually like kind of in a rhythm. And yeah, they were 4 minutes apart. So I was like, we need to get to the hospital like right now. I was like, I'm gonna call my mom, you call my best friends, and we'll just go ahead and go. So I called my mom, who was actually in Jacksonville at the time, and she was like, okay, what do you want us to do? I was like, y'all should go ahead and come here now. So they got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, got in the car. They already had their bags packed, because I told my mom that, you know, hey, I'm 4 centimeters, I could go at any time. So she was like, I'll get my bag packed. So they had their bags packed, they jumped in the car, and they headed to Tampa. So called my best friends. Then Jonathan got all of our bags ready. He was put them in the car. I actually tried to record this entire experience, but what you saw in the beginning is all I could get of my labor and delivery, and you'll understand why as I continue to talk. So as Jonathan was getting the bags on the car, I finally got dressed, and I'm standing in the kitchen. Erica and Raven just got here, and I have like the most painful contraction so far, and it like stops me in my tracks. I'm holding onto the countertop. My friend Raven begins to like rub my back, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this hurts, this hurts, this hurts, and I start to cry. And I'm like, and I know this isn't even the worst part yet, so I'm like, am I gonna really be able to handle this? Now, just a little background. I wanted to do this, I wanted to have Justice all natural, no epidural, no kind of pain medication, just because I wanted to have that experience of being able to have my baby natural. And when I had Journey, there were just some side effects from the epidural that I had before that I just didn't care for. Like, one of my legs was not completely numb, it was really tingly, and it was very annoying the whole time. I had to be laying all the way down in order to get birth. I could not get up and walk around. I was just really restricted, and I didn't like that. And then afterwards, I was shaking like crazy for a very, very long time. It was just, I don't know, it was eerie for me. I didn't like it. Now, I'm also a person who does not like to take medication. I just prefer to find natural ways to deal with things. So I really didn't want to have any medication. So yeah. So once I had that back contraction in the kitchen, I was like, okay, I really need to prepare my mind for this to be like really painful. So I had that contraction. Everybody was like, let's get in the car now. So we get in the car. Well, Jonathan gets in the car, Erica and Raven get in their car, and then I get to the door of the passenger side and I have another contraction. I can't even get in the car because I'm holding onto the door, trying to breathe through it because it's so painful. Wait for that contraction to pass, and then I finally get in the car, put on my seatbelt quick, and I'm like, let's go, let's go. So on the way to the hospital, we literally hit every red light possible, and I was getting so aggravated. By like the third red light, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, why is every light turning red at 3 o'clock in the morning? Like, there's nobody on the road. All the lights should be green right now. I was getting so aggravated, and there was a light, 2 lights right before the hospital, and I was like, Jonathan, I think I have to poop. And if you've ever had a baby before, that you having to poop feeling means that you want to push your baby out. Jonathan was like, you better not push, you need to hold it together because we are not having this baby in the car. And I'm like, okay. So like, I'm trying to squeeze and not have my baby come out and work the contractions. So I don't know if that was just like a test run, but after that sensation of having to poop, it kind of went away. We made it to the hospital. We, you know, kind of sign in. Jonathan gets his visitor's pass. And then Erica and Raven have to wait in the lobby until they get me to the actual labor and delivery room. The first room they take you to is the triage room. And in that room, they kind of get you admitted, get your paperwork started, but it's a very, very small room. So they take you there, and then after that room, you go to labor and delivery, and then all of your people who are going to help you through your labor and delivery can come in. So they have a seat in the waiting room. We go up to triage. When we get up there, okay, so you can kind of tell they were training someone. I'm not sure if she was a tech or what it was, or she was just there for registration. She was writing all my information down like on this scrap piece of paper, and she just seemed really confused about what was going on. So they put me in one room, and then the nurse comes and they're like, oh, hey, no, that's the wrong room. Granted, I'm in a wheelchair and I am having crazy contractions. So I'm like, okay, where am I supposed to be? Jonathan is getting aggravated. If anyone knows my husband, when he gets to that point of like upset almost, he gets very like, I don't know, stern. So he was like, can we just get her where she needs to be now? And so it was the room I was supposed to be in, the next room over. So they get me into that room. They tell me to go ahead and get undressed, so they can check me, hook me up to the monitor so they can hear the baby's heartbeat and track my contractions. So the nurse goes ahead and the nurse checks me, and I'm already at 6 centimeters. Granted, I started off at 4 centimeters at the house. So by the time we got to the hospital, I was 6 centimeters. By the time we got to the hospital, I was 6 centimeters. And my contractions were they were painful, man. Like, it was crazy. When they got to me to the triage room and she checked me and I was 6 centimeters, she stepped out of the room and I was like, Jonathan, I can't do this. I need some kind of pain medication. I need an epidural. I need something. And Jonathan is like, babe, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this. You don't want medication. You can do this. And I was like, no, like, I am totally okay with my decision. You don't need to talk me out of it. I will not feel bad if I get an epidural, if I take pain medication. Everybody's gonna be okay. I'll be fine. Let's just go ahead and get this because I cannot take the pain anymore. So when the nurse comes back in the room, she's like, okay, so you can get IV pain medications up until 8 centimeters. Once you're 8 centimeters, we can no longer administer the pain medication because it could affect the baby. And I was like, okay, so I'm 6 centimeters, so I can get the IV pain medication. She said for the epidural, you can get it at any time, is what she told me, but you have to be able to sit through the contractions. And I was like, okay, yeah, so that's out of the window because at this point my contractions are so bad. When one hits, I'm like holding onto the sides of the bed and I'm like rolling, like trying to like get through the contraction. I'm trying to breathe. I'm doing a whole bunch. I'm squeezing Jonathan. Like, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to sit through a epidural at this point. So I was like, okay, so I want to go ahead and get the IV pain medication. She said, okay, cool. We'll get you up to labor and delivery, get your IV in, and then we'll get you the pain medication. And I was like, okay, great. So she moves us up until labor and delivery. We get up there, and when I tell you, the contractions got worse. Like, I literally feel Justice like moving down into my, like, I feel her like moving down into my pelvis. We get up there, they don't even have the room completely set up yet. Like, it's 2 or 3 other nurses in there, and they're still trying to, you know, sterilize the equipment, kind of get it set up for delivery. They're still putting my information into the computer. One nurse, she comes over to the left side of the bed. She puts in the needles and stuff for my IV. And when she's putting in the needles, like, she puts the tape over it, and then I have a contraction. And during that contraction, I like roll on my side. Jonathan has to run to the other side of the bed because I almost rolled off the bed, apparently. This is what he told me basically afterwards. I almost rolled off of the bed, and the nurse is like down here dealing with the needles, and she's like, hey, you have needles over here. And I'm like, I can't help it. This is so painful. So I'm like rolling on my side, waiting for that contraction to go, and then I roll back, and I'm like, here it goes again. I have to poop. I have to poop. The nurse was like, you do not need to try to push at all because, one, you're not breathing right. So she was like, try to get through this contraction, but start to breathe. And then she turned to the other nurse and said, I'm going to go ahead and call the doctor because she's going to have this baby. She's getting ready to deliver this baby. And the nurse, who I almost rolled over, she was like, okay, go ahead. So she calls the doctor. She was like, hey, so she's up here in the labor and delivery room now, but she's about to have this baby. At the same time, the other nurse checks my cervix again, and she's like, you're at 8 centimeters. And you know what? All I heard was, you can no longer get IV pain medication because you're at 8 centimeters, and at this point, it will affect your baby. So I'm like, I have no choice but to have this child without any medication. I have no choice. Like, why me? Like, and honestly, that was the best thing, because me being forced to not have medication was honestly the only way I was going to have justice without medication, because it was crazy. So I'm at 8 centimeters. I just had this really bad contraction where I almost rolled over on somebody, and now the next one is coming, and I'm like, yeah, I really have to poop. I really have to poop. And the nurse was putting on her gloves, and she said, go ahead and push. She looked down at me and she said, I see your bag. The only thing that's keeping you from having this baby right now is your water breaking. And I'm like, okay. So I go ahead and I push. The first push, my water broke and Justice's head came out. The first push. She was like, I have her head. Go ahead and push again. And then I push again, and all of Justice comes out. 2 pushes, and she came out. And when I tell you, that was the biggest relief ever. Once I finally pushed her out, like, everything just kind of ceased. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Lord. I was just rejoicing. It's so funny because we've been playing like kids worship music for Journey, and literally the only song that I could sing through this entire time, from the time I was at the house to the time I got to the hospital, was I have the joy, 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 joy down in my heart, down in my heart. Like, that song just stayed in my head the whole time. And before I was getting ready to push Justice out, I was like, I have the, what is it? I have the peace that passes understanding down in my heart. It's like, that's all I kept singing before I actually started to push. So, you know, praise God that he was on my mind. I was able to worship a little bit. But as you can tell, or as you may have figured out, we left the camera in the car. When we first got in the hospital, we forgot to get the camera out of the car. And I sent Erica to get it because I was hoping that they would make it up to the labor and delivery room so that we can start recording that part. They never even made it up to the room, literally. Got to the hospital, got to triage, was at 6 centimeters. Got moved to labor and delivery, was at 8 centimeters. Next thing I know, 2 pushes, Justice is here and in the world. Like, she is here. She came in quick and she was not waiting for anybody. So that is pretty much my labor and delivery story. I didn't even get to finish signing consent forms before Justice made it into the world. And honestly, if I could have every baby that quick, that would be wonderful. Maybe the next one just kind of fall out. And, you know, we'll be good. I think if I could, I would possibly have the next baby at home. You know, with the hopes that it would kind of go quick. You never know. Okay, so that is it for my labor and delivery story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So after I gave birth to Justice, she met her sister, and she also had to stay at the hospital for an extra 6 days in the NICU because she had very high bilirubin levels, and she was jaundiced. So she had to stay in the hospital under 3 lights for 6 days, and I actually recorded her time in the hospital, which I will post after this video. So if you guys just kind of want to see how she spent her first week in the world, stay tuned because I'll be posting that video next. Okay, and here is Miss Justice Jean. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, or if you've experienced a really quick delivery, or you just want to share your birth story, go ahead and leave it down in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and also hit the bell so you'll be notified anytime we post a video. Don't forget to tell your mama, tell your friends, tell your cousins, tell everybody you know. Come on over and join the Jean team. Love you guys. Bye.